Hi guys, this is Amish Tripathi and you're listening to me on the PVT Show with Poonam Thakkar.
To everything in the corporate world, a shift over to be a writer of this level. I mean, Shiva Trilogy is one of the finest best-selling books in India.
The schools that we went to, my friends had shoes which cost more than my father's monthly salary.
How did Shiva enter your life?
I essentially come from a Shaivite family. सरस्वती माँ की बहुत कृपा थी. लक्ष्मी माँ बहुत दूर रहती थी हमारे परिवार से. Obviously, Lord Shiva was central.
And this was the time when you were working in a bank. You were a banker. You started simultaneously writing.
So I wrote my first book along with my job. It was rejected by every publisher to send to, so I self-published it.
Insecurity. If you were to decode this word,
You have a girlfriend or boyfriend, can I get someone better? You're never satisfied with what you have.
we haven't reached that stage to even talk about it.
Kundalini can be activated, but you don't have to do tantra for it.
Why is Shiva called Mahadev, the god of gods?
There is an interpretation that is there in tantra with the Gauris who are also Shiv Bhakts, Shaivites, and that's why he's called the Mahadev, the god of gods. He's the lord of dance, he's the lord of music. Shivji ki barat mein koi bhi aa jata hai, goes, anyone, but he's also the originator of the Veda.
Hello everyone, welcome to the PVT Show Podcast. Well, India's ancient wisdom isn't just history, it's a roadmap for modern life. And who better to decode it than the best-selling author Amish Tripathi himself? Well, in this episode of the PVT Show, I sat down with Amish to explore Shiva, Shaivism, and the deep lessons they hold for today's professionals. We discussed resilience, purpose, and how to lead a more fulfilled life in a cutthroat competitive world. So if you are searching for clarity and strength in the chaos, this conversation is for you. Catch the full episode on YouTube, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast platforms. Let's deep dive. Amishi, welcome to the PVT show where we have conversations that truly energize one's mind. I can't thank you enough for taking out time. I'm so excited for this conversation today.
My pleasure. My sister Bhavna Di, she really loved talking to you. So I'm sure I'm going to have a great time as well.
Same, looking forward to it. I will straight jump into, when we were researching about your work. First of all, the huge congratulations on your Blockbuster show on Discovery, the documentary on Legends of Shiva. It's just, everywhere, and congratulations. And I was just wondering that who else than you to be doing that? So great. My first question to you would be, how did Shiva really enter your life? Because we have known you to be, a banker, transitioned into from product management uh, to everything in the corporate world, a shift over to be a writer of this level. I mean, Shiva Trilogy is one of the finest best-selling books in India, and for decades, there's no other book which has been able to cross that level. A diplomat, a broadcaster today. What we try to deal with on our show is to understand the mindset shift and change that happens in professionals, and from that lens, how did Shiva enter your life?
Um, Look, from a young age, I essentially come from a Shaivite family. My grandfather was a Pandit in Kashi. So he was a Pandit at Vishwanath Ji, and he used to teach at Banaras Hindu University, taught maths and physics. So our family was, very focused on education. सरस्वती माँ की बहुत कृपा थी. But as I always joke, लक्ष्मी माँ बहुत दूर रहती थी हमारे परिवार से. So that was the atmosphere that we grew up in, and we were a Shaivite family. We are a Shaivite family. So obviously, Lord Shiva was he was central to our way of life. But we, of course, like a very typical Indian, typical Hindu family, we respected all gods and goddesses. So my grandfather, he was a Pandit, but he really admired, worshipped, learned from Lord Ram as well. Uh, and my father, my late father, Nirgun Nirakar, my mother, she was a Shakta, a goddess worshipper. She is a Shakta. So our family, we have all traditions, but primarily we are a Shaivite family. Uh, so, I just grew up with Lord Shiva, all information, all devotion on him. I did turn into an atheist in my younger years for a few years in college.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did.
When was this?
So maybe first, second year junior college, 11, 12 standard. So was it?
And why is that so?
Various reasons. Part of it, perhaps youthful rebellion. Part of it also, this was the early 90s. There was a lot of chaos happening in India. You remember at that time. And some of us, my friends and I, our reaction to it was that maybe religion is the cause of the problem. And my father, in my family, everyone is deeply devout. So my parents weren't happy about it, but they're a religious and a liberal family, which in traditional India is not a contradiction. The more religious you are, the more liberal you will be. So my father did try to talk to me about it. And he said that you have to read our original scriptures, and you will realize that actually our original scriptures, at least the scriptures, of the Hindu, Buddhist, Jain faith, which we have read and studied, they don't preach hatred towards other religions. And he said at times like this, those of us who are knowledgeable about our scriptures have an even greater duty that we should speak loudly about these things rather than let ignorance cause chaos. So he said, rather than being an atheist, be even more devout, read the scriptures and speak about it, add to positivity. But I was too young, I was, too stupid. There's always a time when a man grows up enough and he realizes every man. My father was a very smart man. But when you're young, you don't really realize it. You're like, no, what do you know? I have the energy of youth, and you know how the youth are. So yeah, it was perhaps youthful rebellion. I slowly came back to faith with the process of writing my first book, Immortals of Meluva. So I already knew all the knowledge already. So it wasn't a discovery of faith. It was in a way a return to faith with Lord Shiva.
And this was the time when you were working in a bank. You were a banker. You started simultaneously writing?
I wrote my first 2 books along with my job.
Oh, really? Let's talk about that.
Poonam, it's like this. As I told you, Lakshmi Ma used to stay away from our family. So, but there was no shortage of Saraswati Ma. So, so our generation, 4 of us siblings, we're the first generation in our family to be educated in the English medium. My parents were actually educated in the Hindi medium. And they sent us to schools that was way beyond their income and social class. In the schools that we went to, my friends had shoes which cost more than my father's monthly salary. You grow up in an atmosphere like that, then what is always there in the back of your mind, and it was there for all 4 of us siblings, my Didi and 3 of us brothers, that we have to be successful. We have to earn the sacrifices of our parents. Our parents had no savings, nothing. Everything that they had, they spent only on the education of their children. They had nothing else. No house, they had nothing. And we had no Kandali house. So obviously we had to be practical and pragmatic. And banking is a good job. And I wasn't about to resign from my banking job. And be irresponsible. So I wanted to write, and an idea had struck me. I didn't know where it would go. So I wrote my first book along with my job. It was rejected by every publisher it was sent to, so I self-published it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Immortals.
You're talking about Meluha, right?
Yeah, Meluha. It was rejected by every publisher it was sent to. I self-published it. It took off in the first week itself, became a bestseller. But I didn't know if this was a fluke. So I wrote my second book as well. When that released, and I realized, okay, even the second book is doing well, and my royalty check became more than my salary, I resigned only at that time. It was a very practical, pragmatic, very middle class decision.
But very right decision. That's how decisions are to be made. And this was when you were very young. Not like
No, I was 30. Yeah, 34, 35.
fairly young. Okay. We won't
I, I,
go that late.
I'm 50 years old. I'm quite old.
Yes, yes. We celebrated your birthday. I know, but hats off to the fitness in your life that I don't think anybody is going to say that. So, my question now is that you reimagined Shiva as a human, not a god. And I'm talking about this massive book of yours. What was your thought process behind portraying him that way? What were you thinking?
Poonam, the way divinity is approached in the Indian way, and it is very complex, but I can reduce it to 4 ways.
Sure.
So the first way that we can approach the divine is the Nirgun Nirakar concept. Okay, where no form, no attributes, beyond gender. It's almost like your energy, but beyond that too. Uh, sometimes this divine form is called Brahman. As Shaivites, we call the divine form Shiv. Vaishnavas may call this Nirgun Nirakar form as Vishnu. But this first form is very difficult to understand for most ordinary people, even for those who've studied a lot, because there's no form, there is no attributes, there is no likes, dislikes. It's beyond everything. It's just that divinity makes everything else possible. That's a first way of approaching the divine. But like I said, it's very complicated. The second way of approaching the divine is akar, that God has taken a form so that you can't even actually use the term he, so that the divine can come closer to you. Right? Now, this is how we see Lord Shiva in his, the form that we are used to, with the serpent, with the trishul, with the tambru, or Lord Vishnu, how we see him with the conch, with the lotus, etc., or Lord Brahma, or Mata, in her form. So this is the Shakti. Yeah, is the second form of approaching the divine. The third form of approaching the divine is it's called either Avatar or Ansh. Avatar is when Lord Vishnu takes a form, a living form. Could be human, could be non-human as well. The Matsya Avatar was a fish. Right? That's a third way. Or Lord Shiva doesn't take an avatar. Lord Shiva in Ansh comes up. Right? So Hanumanji is an Ansh of Lord Shiva, for example. Jalandharji was an Ansh of Lord Shiva. And Hanumanji is Chiranjeevi, so he's still here, but he's an Ansh of Lord Shiva. That's a third approach. The fourth approach is that the human being or any living being, we are itself divine. We carry Shivatva within us. Okay. And the difference between the gods and us is that they have discovered the divine within. We are yet to discover the divine within. Okay. That's what Namaste actually means. I bow to the divine within you. It doesn't mean hello. It actually means I bow to the divine within you. I find this fourth approach to the divine very inspiring, because it means that we are the answer to what we've been looking for. Right? It's in some ways very inspiring. It's in some ways very scary. There's no one to, there's no one who will come and help you. You have to help yourself. Right? You have to discover the divine within. Now, I find this concept very inspiring. And how about if we approach the stories of our gods from this perspective? That one of the ways from this perspective, the way we approach our gods is that they are role models from whom we can learn how to discover the divine. I find this approach very inspiring, which is why my stories usually come out in this format. Now, I'd love to say I'm the first guy to come up with it because it makes me sound very cool, but that's not true. There are many stories like this. So, and not just in the modern day. S.L. Bhairappa Ji, for example, brilliant Kannada writer, in my mind, among the best living writers in India today. He's right up there. I mean, in my mind, perhaps the rishis among writers living. So he wrote Parva, which was from this perspective. But even if you go to ancient times, there's a great Sanskrit playwright called Asa, who also wrote his plays from this perspective, that the divine figures were, and this was 2,500 years ago, that the divine figures are actual human beings. And the difference between them and us is that they have discovered the divine within and we have not.
That's a journey of spirituality. So, did writing about Shiva really change you personally? Did you see that change happening?
Oh, yeah. I did my MBA from IIM Calcutta. I did BSc Mathematics in Xavier's College, MBA from IIM Calcutta, academically oriented. I was active in sports as well, boxing, gymnastics. I was slightly crooked bows. It's an old boxing injury. So throughout my life, I've been very competitive. Okay, I think part of it comes from the family background also, because like I told you earlier, if we know that our parents have made huge sacrifices for us, it's almost like there's that fire in the belly, like it's our duty. We have to be successful. And there is no option. You cannot be number two. And my ma also used to kind of, she never hate my mother. She never hate the sacrifices that my father and she were making. We knew all the sacrifices that they're making. And ma used to say also that in Hindi, she would tell us, whatever you do, we will not tell you what career option you should take. Okay, that's up to you. But whatever you do, number two is not an option. You have to be number one, no matter what you do. Okay. So we are very, by nature, all four of us are very competitive. The atmosphere is such, Indian Institute of Management, that it kind of owns this competitiveness even more. Right. There's some positivities to being competitive. Right. You're hardworking, you want to rise, you have fire in the belly. There's some negativities too, right? You're always slightly insecure. You're always comparing to others. And if you get hyper competitive as I did, you end up shouting and screaming. You end up, I used to be that way. I'm sure my teams in the banks where I worked, they didn't really like me. I was hyper competitive. And I was
Imposter syndrome.
Sorry?
We talk about for performers. Imposter syndrome.
It's more than imposter. It is like I deserve more than what I got. It's always there in the back of the constantly. That yes, I got a promotion. Why didn't I get it earlier? Yes, I may have been the youngest senior management committee member, but I should have got it 4 years back. Yes, I've got a cabin now. Why isn't my cabin bigger? Yes, I've got a bonus. Why didn't I get a higher? No matter what you got, you're always unhappy. But that is the source of competitiveness as well, right? Because at least so we think. The modern world tells us if you're happy, then you're not competitive anymore. It's unhappiness which drives your competitiveness. That is where Lord Shiva,
Very important point you say.
that is where Lord Shiva changed me completely. He didn't change my world. He did a bigger miracle. He changed me. There's a 180-degree turn in my character. I'm still very competitive. I don't shout and scream. I don't have buttons that people can easily press. I don't have insecurities. If someone says something insulting to me, my earlier character was such, I would have probably responded. I would have fought. Now, if someone says something insulting like, "Tu puch rahe hai," I don't want to waste my time arguing with you. The interesting thing, Poonam, I realized is that I am even more competitive and successful now because I'm not wasting energies on insecurities and silly things. And maybe that's what Lord Krishna was trying to tell us when he said, karmani vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, that don't be attached to the results. Just focus on the work. What it does, it calms your mind down. And then, because you only have so much energy, right?
Yeah.
And if you have competitive energy, you can either focus it all on your work and therefore you'll be more successful, or those competitive energies get wasted in pointless things. Why is my cabin not bigger? How dare that person tell me you could have done a better job? Who are you? These are wasted, opportunities for your energy. Don't waste time on all that. But you can only do that when your mind is calm, right? When you're when your competitiveness doesn't come from a place of insecurity, when your competitiveness comes from a place of gratefulness that I've got this talent, I have to do justice to it and I have to work hard. It comes from enjoying what you do so much that you just naturally just keep working at it. That's what.
You are constantly living in a competitive world, as you said, right? So, and everything is stemming from the place of insecurity. Now that we are talking about it, I think you have just preponed the whole conversation. This was going to be after half, but good you said this. This is where our audiences are going to get a lot of meat from you in terms of what they should take it as a key takeaway. How does, I don't want to use the heavy word spirituality, because most of the people, feel that spirituality is a very heavy word. It needs to come into your life after you're 60, 50, whatever. Insecurity, if you were to decode this word and give a message out, that how your characters are not insecure, how your thinking is not insecure, how you have been able to give out in your books. I've read it and I know there is a soft power in every character of yours. Would you want to decode this insecurity for people to understand it better?
I think the modern life that we have, which is based on a Western paradigm, has insecurity built into it. All about chasing brands, chasing something you want to buy, some holiday you want to book, girlfriend, boyfriend. If you have a girlfriend or boyfriend, can I get someone better? There's this constant. You're never satisfied with what you have, because the belief is if you become satisfied, then you start. You become lazy and you waste your life away, right? And this is the dichotomy that the West presents to us, that either you're on this extreme or on that extreme, right?
Yeah.
That either you're successful, by which you have to be insecure, you have to keep working hard, you have to keep wanting. And it's not that wanting gives you happiness also. Moment a new phone comes out, there's so many who say, I want that. You buy that phone, within a day you're bored of it. Right? Then what's the point of buying that phone? And this is a part of so much of life in today's day. And in many ways, humanity has never had it better. Materially, this is the best that humanity has ever had. Today, middle classes live lifestyles that the royalty would have lived 200 years ago. But we are still unhappy. We were told by the West that you get all these material benefits, you'll be happy, you'll be satisfied. I would argue we are even more unhappy. I lived in the UK for 4.5 years. First time I lived in the West. The younger generation out there is the most privileged generation in human history. Western youth, right? No one has had more money than them. No one has had it richer than them. Everything is taken care of. And these youngsters, they're essentially younger millennials and Gen Zs in the West. They will inherit the largest wealth transfer in human history. When the boomers die out, that they have the largest collection of wealth in human history. When they die, it will transfer to younger millennials and Gen Zs, right? So in every way, you would think, dude, you have it all, right? And I've never seen a more unhappy generation. I see street children, not just in India, in Egypt, who are happier than the Western youth, right? Why is that? If you've got everything that you want materially, you're still unhappy. Then the problem isn't outside, the problem is internal, right? Then what is the problem that is internal? Because essentially you're being driven by desires on which you have no control. You're being driven by insecurities and competitiveness on which you have no control. You're driven by what others say on which you have no control, right? You're letting everything else run your life. You are not running your own life. Now, this doesn't mean that you give up everything and tell your wife and children to starve, because I'm discovering myself. and I'll go to an ashram and live out there. I'm not swinging to the other extreme, right? But how do you find that balance? That your desires and your insecurities and what other people say are not the decision makers in your life, but your soul is the decision maker in your life. Okay, you do what you want to do. Now this comes from spirituality, which is why you don't need this post 60. Okay, you need this now. The best time to start spirituality was yesterday, but since you didn't start yesterday, start now. And Indian spirituality is not about that you have to attend this worship place once a week, or you have to pray so many times a day, or you have to say all other gods are false and I should hate them and I'll worship only my God. This is also a path to hatred. Indian spirituality is actually like a science. It's to improve your own, understand yourself, right? And understand what your pravruti is, so that you can lead a better life. That's what Indian spirituality is. You need that right now. You don't need that post 60. You need it right now.
This is the right time for me to be thinking about this question. It just struck me right now that, there's most often a debate between the devotion side, the bhakti, as you rightly said, and seeking gyan. So how do you personally connect with, I'll bring back to Shiva, through faith, philosophy, or the ways we worship him?
So, Poonam, our ancestors did analyze and systematize this. Again, I'm simplifying, right? It's actually a lot more complex. I'm simplifying it. But yoga today is often understood as just exercising, yoga. But it's much more than that. The root of the word yoga is actually the Sanskrit dhatu yug, which means to unite with the divine. Okay, to come together. So, yoga is essentially about how you rise to the divine. Okay, and there are various paths for the divine. There are 4 paths, but the 4 paths are essentially built on a foundation. What is the foundation? Hatha yoga. Okay. Hatha yoga is actually the asanas, the pranayam exercises that we do, that everyone thinks is yoga. Okay, that's actually the first step. Okay, that's a foundation. Why is that important? Because if you don't have a healthy body, you can't go towards the divine, because you're trying to stay alive, you're trying to manage your basic issues. So the first step, make a healthy body. Okay, that's what Hatha yoga is supposed to be. But you don't end there. Normally we just end here, right? In the modern day. The next step can be taken through 4 paths. First is Bhakti Yoga, second is Karma Yoga, third is Gyan Yoga, and the fourth is the path of the mysteries like Tantra, etc. That I would strongly advise that's for the adepts. It's for very few people. For us ordinary people, it's not a path. If you're not ready for it, it can be a path to insanity, can be a path to various things. So, all those, the path of the mysteries, leave that for the people.
I'll tell you something because I've been doing a little bit of spiritual podcasts. I have my friends from the corporate world coming and telling me, Poonam, Kundalini ke upar karo, Kundalini. Sit. You know what? We haven't reached that stage to even talk about it.
Kundalini can be activated, but you don't have to do Tantra for it, right? Yeah. You can, but like I said, that's not for us ordinary people, right? For us ordinary people, there are 3 paths: Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga. Okay? So, I'll start from the last. What is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is a path of action. Okay, path of doing activities. Bhagavad Gita actually expounds Karma Yoga beautifully, right? That is one way to the divine. The second path is Bhakti Yoga, right? The path of devotion, path of love. And the first part, the reverse order, is Gyan Yoga, path of knowledge. Keep reading, keep learning, keep listening to a guru, and raise your knowledge so that you become divine. I'm a lover of Gyan Yoga. You can pick whatever path works for you. That is the way to approach this. First, make your body healthy. then pick one of the paths that works for you, depending on your pravruti, your innate attributes.
Correct. I was asking everyone around that I would be sitting with you, and there is too much of excitement. But one question that resonated with most, and I'm trying to just club it up for you to help us with, is that why is Shiva called Mahadev, the god of gods? Like, what is so special?
Let me answer this, and because I don't mean to insult or belittle any other god or goddess, right? I mean, I respect all gods and goddesses. But it is believed, like one of the stories is the Jyotirling, the original pillar of light, which Lord Shiva manifested in. And then Lord Vishnu and Lord Brahma tried to find two ends of it, and they couldn't find the either end because Lord Shiva, and the story carries on, but I can just end it here because Lord Shiva is Anant and Anadi. There is no end, there is no beginning. And that's why he's called the Mahadev, the god of gods. But having said that, I respect the right of anyone else to see their divine as as the original. It doesn't matter; there are different names to the same principle. The Vishnu Sahasranam, which is 1,000 names of Vishnu. One of the names listed in there is Shiva, and the 1,008 names of Lord Shiva, which is there in the Shiv Puran, Linga Puran, etc. One of the 1,008 names of Shiva is Vishnu. So they are one and the same. It is. I'm a Shaivite, so obviously, for me, he is the Mahadev.
You emphasize that every man is Mahadev. So how can one apply this leadership skill in their life?
That was the concept that I was speaking of earlier. Har Mahadev, I want information, is that all of us are Mahadevs, which means all of us have the divine within us. This is in a way a different way of saying Namaste as well. I bow to the divine within you, or Tattvamasi, you are that, you are divine, or Aham Brahmasmi, I am divine.
Okay.
It's the same concept, but the key thing to realize is this is not. It cannot be a statement of ego. I am. You have to respect me, you have to worship me. No. It's a statement of challenge, actually, that become worthy of the divine within you. Right? It's a challenge to you. It's not a statement of ego. It's like you'll notice in the modern West, someone who's fighting for men's rights or women's rights or transgender rights, they'll just start with, I'm born powerful. I'm special for who I am. If you think about it, that's actually a very egotistical statement. Right? Okay, you have to respect me because I am who I am. That doesn't work that way. You have to earn your respect. Right? So that is the way to see Aham Brahmasmi, Har Mahadev, Tattvamasi, which are different ways of saying the same thing, that the divine is within you. But it's not a statement of ego. It's a statement of challenge. Become worthy of the divine within you.
Very, very well put. Now, the other side of Shiva. Shiva is often depicted in cremation grounds. So, what is the deeper spiritual lesson behind this symbolism from your lens?
There is an interpretation that is there in Tantra with the Gauris who are also Shiv Bhaks, Shaivites. I won't go into that. And those are some of the things I'm aware of, but those are things that you should discover by yourself. But one of the things that one can say is that for us Shaivites, everything in the universe, everything in the world has been created by Lord Shiva. So how can anything be impure? Because everything has the imprint of Lord Shiva in it. Right? So everything is wonderful because everything is Lord Shiva. Right? So, and secondly, we don't see death as something scary. Right? Often, at times, and Lord Shiva can be called the destroyer of evil, but that's a different concept from saying he's the god of destruction. He's not really the god of destruction. He's actually the god of transformation. Think about it this way. Nothing really dies in the universe. You just change form. You can't escape the universe, right? So, for example, you right now, right? Poonam at this point of time is essentially a temporary combination of three forces. Right? One is your soul, second is your body, which is a bunch of chemicals and water in the right proportion, and the third is your genetics, which is essentially your ancestors living within you. Right? It's a temporary combination of these three forces. When you die, your soul will either get moksha or go into another body, so the soul is alive, right? Your body will be cremated, and Mother Nature will use those chemicals and water as Mother Nature deems fit, as Mahaprakriti deems fit, and your genes will carry on through your children. Your ancestors will continue living through that. So all three are carrying on. So in one way, you've not actually died; you just transformed, right? Like even your ancestors haven't really died; they are living within you and your siblings, right? So from this perspective, Lord Shiva is not really the god of destruction. He is actually the god of transformation. Because what is destruction for me in my temporary form is the creation of me in another form, right? So then what's there to be afraid of in a cremation ground, right? There's nothing to be afraid of. It's a place of transformation. Having said that, anyone who goes to a cremation ground, you must go with respect. There are people who go with a morbid fascination. They want to take pictures. I find that sometimes Westerners or Westernized people, they come and take pictures and then share it on their Instagram like it's, like it's some bizarre ritual. That is disrespectful. You can go out there, but behave with respect, right? Because if it's a place of transformation, there's something spiritual taking place out there. So treat it with respect. I mean, there are times when people do photograph out there. You can go to Manikandika Ghat, but ask the local, may I do it? Right? It's behave with respect when you go out there. If it's expected that you take off your shoes when you go out there, take off your shoes and go out. Go in with respect. Don't go in like a tourist. Okay? It's not a tourism place. Otherwise,
Thank you for saying this.
Otherwise, the cremation ground is not a place to be afraid of from a Shaivite perspective. It's not.
Very nicely put. I don't think anyone has really explained this well. It gives a different meaning to the whole concept of, and thank you for explaining this so well. So, Shiva is both ascetic and, well, how should I put it? Like the best husband also, householder with Parvati ji. अभी गया है शिवरात्रि, so क्या lesson मिलता है उनके life से? Like, duality. Like some people, let me put it this way, some people would think we are the best businessmen. We are very busy in our work, and by the virtue of we doing best in our business, हम अपने family के लिए कर रहे हैं. We don't have time for family. If you look at Shiva, it's Shiva as a figure is so fascinating. You would see the same man, and I'm using the word man right now because I am talking about him, Shiva, meditating. तो meditation भी करते हैं. He's a guy who's responsible for destruction also and transformation, as you said. Third eye is doing that job. The other lens is one of the best husbands who actually cried like a baby. Isn't it fascinating?
I think
what is the lesson here for humanity?
Shiva in many ways is the god of contradiction. He is a god of the masses, but the elites also love him because he's the lord of dance, he's the lord of music, right? He is Shivji ki barat mein koi bhi aa jata hai, goes, anyone, correct? But he's also the originator of the Vedas. He's the Adi Yogi. So there are many contradictions if you think about it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what makes him so attractive, because a complete god, a complete man, is one who can see all sides, right? I think, at least my perception of Lord Shiva, he's a god who enjoys solitude. There's a difference between solitude and loneliness, right? Loneliness is when you don't actually want to be alone, but there's no one around you, so you're alone. Solitude is actually you enjoy your own company and you want to meditate and you want to, right? So in some ways, he is, in a way, a reluctant husband. He actually wanted to just meditate and be with himself and create knowledge, to create, when things are beyond anyone's management, he'll come and help. Like he drank the poison, right, at Sagar Manthan. So in some ways, he's a reluctant husband. And that's a thing to realize, that someone, a god who enjoys his solitude and meditation so much, it has to be a very, very special feminine who can pull him out of that, right? And actually want to be a husband, right? And that's the beauty that we see, we Shivaite see, between Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati. He doesn't just love Goddess Parvati because it's the duty of the masculine. He loves her because she's such a special feminine, right? So in a marriage, often, for example, if, someone, woman had joked with me once, how do I get a husband like Lord Shiva? I said, well, you have to be like Goddess Parvati then, right? You'll get a husband like Lord Shiva who will be obsessed by you, right? And that's what makes their marriage so special, because they are strong for who they are. It's not like in the modern Western things. I find the feminist and the transgender conversations at times a little disturbing. That to fight for transgender rights, you have to hate women. To fight for feminist rights, you have to hate men. Like, why? The way the gender conversations also happen, it's almost like, women have to become more and more masculine. Men have to become more and more feminine. And there's just so much, frankly, confusion.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Whereas, if you see Lord Shiva, Goddess Parvati, you don't see someone more feminine than Goddess Parvati, but she's a very powerful feminine. You don't get someone more masculine than Lord Shiva. He's as masculine as he can be. He's not metrosexual, okay, by any stretch of the imagination. But he respects his feminine, his wife so much. I think that's a role model worth following, rather than the very confused model that is coming from the West, which I think is causing so much chaos in modern relationships. Yeah, that's what I think.
You very rightly explained. Shiva is actually trying to embody both detachment, vairagya, and then devotion, bhakti. So you can see both the colors. So my question here is, can a modern day leader balance these qualities without losing what you said, the career ambition or the success ambition? Is it possible?
It's difficult. I mean, it's not easy having Lord Shiva as a role model. But one of the things that can be done, perhaps, is be present where you are. When you're working, be present out there. Don't waste time gossiping. Focus on your work. When you're with your wife and children, be present out there. You enjoy your time with them. And if you're actually enjoying your time with them, they'll sense it too. They'll enjoy their time with you. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
So Shiva drank hala hala poison to save the universe. In leadership, tough decisions and sacrifices are inevitable. How does this act symbolize the role of a true leader and actually absorbing challenges, let's say, for the greater good?
Let me give a few examples of what drinking the poison means. That at times hard decisions have to be taken. If a company is facing monetary stress, and you need to let some people go, or the company goes bankrupt and everyone suffers, it's a tough call, right? What does drinking the poison mean in such a scenario? First, if you're letting people go, and then the CEO is taking a huge bonus, yeah, that's not good, right? And that one finds in many Western companies, regrettably, in many Indian companies. You've just fired 10% of your staff, and you've taken a huge bonus for yourself. That's not good, right? From what I know, during COVID, some of the Tata Group companies what they did was they reduced the salaries. Okay, they didn't fire anyone. They reduced the salaries of some employees, and the CEOs also took a pay cut. That is Lord Shiva's way. Okay, it's a tough situation. Some poison has to be taken, right? And the top people took a higher proportion of a pay cut. That is Lord Shiva's way. Okay. Or for example, in modern India, this is something I've spoken often. There is massive change happening. A lot of it is very good. Post 1991, like prior to 1991, India was so poor. Our GDP was less than the gross sales turnover of 3 American car companies. We were that poor. Just 3 auto companies in the US made more money than all of India. We were that poor. And within just 35 years, we've already become the 5th largest economy in the world. We just moved ahead of our former colonial master, the UK, right? Fantastic changes, usually all positive. But like in Sagar Manthan, any fast-paced change, there'll be some negatives that will come up, some foreign come up. So what I suggest to at least those of us who worship Lord Shiva, that in an atmosphere like this, don't add to the poison. There are some disturbances that are coming. Broadly, the direction is right. Some disturbances that are coming, don't spread hatred and add to the poison. And if you can, drink up that poison. Okay, try and reduce the negativity. Don't respond to insults with insults. Say something positive if you can. That's what the Lord Shiva way is.
Oh, very nicely explained. Abhishek, so Shiva granted boons to both devotees and demons alike. What you said, So if the situation is like that, take some poison. Don't just wait all the time for the nectar. So I'm just loudly thinking, does this reflect an essential leadership quality like fairness and neutrality? And when you are faced with difficult situations or opposing forces?
Leadership doesn't mean that you get a better deal. Leadership means your shoulders have to be stronger. You have to take more of the load. That's what leadership means. Leadership doesn't mean that you can relax in your palace while your slaves are working. No, that's not leadership. Leadership means to lead from the front. And then, if you are that kind of leader, you'll be surprised how many people will follow.
Correct.
Yeah. That's the way I see it. That's Lord Shiva's style of leadership.
Lovely. How can young leaders balance ambition with detachment, ensuring they don't lose themselves in the what we call the rat race of success?
When you're not stuck to the results. Okay. So you should be ambitious. I'm not saying you should hang around doing nothing. You should be ambitious. You should even discover what your talent is and then do justice to it. But if you succeed, great. If you don't succeed, it's okay. Try again the next time. Then you don't become negative in your ambition, and that is actually what Lord Krishna advises us in Karmanyevadakaraste. What is he essentially saying? That enjoy your karma so much that it's not that you don't care, but you are detached from success or failure. How does this make you better rounded? Everyone can realize that failure can be bad for you because it fills demotivation in your heart, and therefore you stop working. So you're aware of that. No, keep going no matter what failure happens. But people don't realize success is even more dangerous for you, right? Success fills pride in your head, and you'll find so many people, particularly in sports, creativity, etc., who are one-hit wonders. They succeed once, they can't handle it. Pride in the head, they waste their time, alcohol, partying, affairs, God knows what not. And they waste their talents. We've seen enough examples of this. So success can be equally dangerous because it distracts your mind. So be ambitious, but be detached from success or failure. So you're just enjoying what you do so much. Okay. And then you'll realize when you look up 30 years later that hell, you achieved a hell of a lot.
So it's gradual, but it's going to be more gratifying, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, failure is distracting. Success is even more dangerous. So if you're trying to control your ego and your pride in your head, you're not doing someone else a favor, you're doing yourself a favor.
Absolutely.
You'll not get distracted. Ravan had no shortage of talent, right? But I mean, basically, what was the end result of his life? So for him to control his ego was in his own self-interest. It was not for the good of others.
True. And that's a very big lesson for you guys, I believe. Amish, because I'm sitting with you, I think two questions bahut zyada in the research that have come, and I'm a little bit deviating. One is confusion on Rudraksha, like human beings, which Rudraksha, if somebody has to wear, what it should be, and what not to do, very important. And second question, that a lot of my girl gangs have asked, that why it is Sola Somvar. Two questions I have for you.
So, Rudraksh, the very term Rudraksh actually literally means the tears of Lord Shiva. Rudra, it's the tears of Lord Shiva. And it comes, have you seen a Rudraksh tree?
Yes, I have.
Then some area.
Rishikesh.
Yeah, and the fruit is like a very bright blue color, right? And when it actually ripens, it's one of those interesting things where the fruit actually just slips out by itself, and then that's why you get the seed with the kind of branch attached to it. There are various types of Rudrakshas, right? Panchmukhi, Trimukhi. Ekmukhi is like a crescent. I have an Ekmukhi, but that's in my puja room at home. This is a Panchmukhi which I wear, right?
It's a single one that you're wearing.
No, that's Panchmukhi, five pieces, right?
And single beat.
Yeah. So now it's up to you what, and that's best if you ask your Purohit or someone you believe, right? What is best for you, right?
Okay.
But essentially what you're wearing is something that is very, it represents Lord Shiva, which is why for us Shivites it is such a, like we want it to touch us all the time. That's why you wear it in a pendant. And something which is like Ekmukhi, ideally it should be presented to you. You should buy it. And it should come as not because you planned it. It was the right time and someone gave it to you. That's what at least our community believes, right? So, so for those of us who are Shivites, it's very, very precious. I mean, हम पहन के जा रहे हैं कहीं खो गया तो so I just keep it in the puja room, right? So that's the way it is with Rudra. So find there are different types of Rudrakshas. And like I said, Ekmukhi is actually like a crescent moon. It's like this. Yeah. Whereas the other Rudrakshas are kind of like a sphere. Like, ask your Purohit what could be good for you.
Women can wear it too.
Yeah.
And why Sola Somvar and not 17, 18?
Honestly, I don't know क्योंकि मैंने तो किया है नहीं तो. But I should find out actually. Good question.
Yeah.
I'll ask my mom.
Yeah. So one of my friends, she said, "Ki is it? Please ask if there is a shortcut like 16 is too much." Or somebody said, "Why 16? It could be 100 also. The more you do, the better husband you're gonna get, right?" So they all were laughing, and it was a good question.
I don't know. I should ask my mother.
Yes.
Why 16?
Okay, yeah, bye. So, just to wrap up this conversation, we won't take much of your time, Amishi. I think this was more of a very beginner's conversation on how to understand I would say, the very, very understanding of, we haven't gone deeper into anything which is spiritual. This is more to do with, how youngsters should be looking at it. And the research also suggests that very youth crowd is the reader of your book. So you have done the great work of embarking them onto the spiritual path by the virtue of these books. If to the young audiences who would be watching and listening to this podcast, if they have to know, and if they are influenced by what you said, they have to start, what should be the starter kit for them? to embark on this journey.
That's a good start.
Which is definitely or kuch. Yeah, for sure.
The way it is with Lord Shiva, because he is such a democratic god, just think on him, you'll find your path, because there can be many different paths. One is just devotion to him. The other is reading about him. The other is meeting others who are also devotees of Lord Shiva. You could go to an ashram, Shri Ravi Shankar ashram, or Satguru, Isha ashram at Coimbatore. Bangalore, Coimbatore. You could go to, or the Paramartha ashram in Uttarakhand. You could go to an ashram where you're hanging around with others who are also Shiv Bhakts. You could read more on him. You could just be devoted to him. Let me tell you an interesting story. This is a story from Tamil Nadu. There's a very famous saint out there called Kannappa, and this is the origin story of Saint Kannappa. He was originally a hunter, and very, very devout worshipper of Lord Shiva. So every day he used to go to a Lord Shiva temple, and the prasad he used to carry would be, well, a part of whatever he hunted. He was a hunter, right?
Correct.
So he used to take a part of an animal on one hand. On another hand, he would be carrying bale leaves, bilwa leaves. Lord Shiva likes that.
Yeah.
Now he had to carry water also to do the Rudrabhishekam, but he was so poor, he had no handle, he had nothing. He used to carry water in his mouth and just pour it on the Shiva. Okay. Now at the temple, the Purohit who was there was getting very upset. What is this guy doing? He's insulting Lord Shiva like this. And of course, as you can guess, sometime later, Lord Shiva emerged, and who did he bless? Kannappa only. Because he told the Purohit, you weren't focused on your practice. You were more busy in judging Kannappa. Right? Whereas he was focused on his practice. His was a devotion with the cleanliness of his heart. And Lord Shiva is like that. So you can read, of course. You can go to ashram, spend time. You can learn more. Or just be devoted to him, and the path will open up. And the path that is specific for you will open up. A video on YouTube that could set you off, some book that could set you off. Lord Shiva will give you a path.
Oh, how beautifully explained. My last question to you. If Shiva were to walk among us today, how would he guide the humanity with all the chaos that you see in the world?
I think he would expect us to be the best version of ourselves. That's what he would expect. He's the kind of God who will say that you have to become better. I'm there to help you. And that's the opportunity for all of us. Time of chaos, time of Sagar Manthan is when changes happen. So actually, I don't see it as a negative period. I see it as a period of opportunity. It's up to us what we make of ourselves and of our land at this time.
Very well said. Anything you want to add, Amish, for your readers? What is coming next? What is next exciting thing? Documentaries are coming for sure.
Documentaries, and I have a video game coming out in 2026. A proper AAA, the first AAA PlayStation type game based on an Indian subject. It'll be based on Ramayana. I'm working with this British-French company. The game will be based on the Ramayana. It will release in 2026. The first AAA PlayStation console type, big budget, big game based on the Ramayana.
Wow.
Working on that. I just finished a manuscript that should come out later this year. Historical fiction set 1,000 years ago. I have my podcasts running as well. There's a film we are working on Lord Krishna. I'm the creative director for the movie. It's called Radha Ramanam. It's exploring love through the story of Lord Krishna. That'll also come out 2026. Tons of stuff happening.
Oh yeah, it's sounding very exciting. 2026 is absolutely the year to be looking at your work. Thank you so much for your time. It was such an honor to be talking to you, and I look forward to us doing more conversations when so many things are going to be out. It is going to be very, very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amish.
My pleasure.
Thank you.